Father. Sorry, mother. Pita. Father. Brata. Brother. Surida. Friends. Cha. Also. Adishanti. Offer. He. Indeed. Translation. Although a father, mother, brother or friend may sometimes punish one as a well-wisher, they never punish their subordinate like this. But because you are the most worshipful Lord, I regard the punishment you have given me as most exalted. Responsibly, although a father, mother, brother or friend,
also father, mother, brother or friend,
may sometimes punish one as a well-wisher. They never punish their subordinate like this. But because you are the most worshipful Lord, I regard the punishment you have given me as most exalted. Quite a response, isn't it? That someone's getting punished and they think, this is good. This is very good. And this is, because this whole section of the Bhagavatam, we see like, you know, how Bali Maharaj, he's because he's the king of the demons, he's creating challenges for the Devatas. That's just the position requires that, you know, because the demons and the Devatas are constantly at enmity with each other, and they're always having fights or wars or whatever. So Bali Maharaj, even though his disposition is that of a devotee, that still it's his duty as the king of the Daityas is to fight the Devatas. And he's doing it very well, so much so that he's taken over the heavenly planets, and he's taken on usurped the position of Indra. And so the Devatas have gone to the Lord, and the Devatas are naturally devotees, whereas the Daityas are naturally not devotees. And the Devatas have gone to the Lord and prayed to the Lord for his assistance in this, and so he's agreed to help. And he manifests himself as Vamana Dev. What does Vamana mean? Dwarf, dwarfing face, very small boy. He manifests himself as Vamana Dev, and then, you know, he's very sweet, very attractive, very beautiful. And Bali Maharaj, because he has this natural disposition, he's just drawn to the Lord. Which, you know, who wouldn't be drawn to the Lord? He's so beautiful. And so the Lord approaches him as a dwarf brahmana and begs from him 3 steps of land. But Sukracharya, the guru of the Daityas, says, no, this is Lord Vishnu, he's come to trick you. Don't give him any charity. And Bali Maharaj understood who this was, and he said, no, he's come to me for charity, I have to give him. And as a result, there's some interesting details in the story, but as a result, what happens is that Bali Maharaj gives Vamana charity, and Vamana takes, what does he take? 3 steps of land, which is kind of interesting because in the dialogue that's going backwards and forwards between Vamana Dev and Bali Maharaj is saying, look, I can give you so much more than this. I can give you beautiful women, I can give you whole countries, I can give you planets, whatever you want. He said, no, 3 steps to land. He said, but your steps are so small. But little did he know how this, because another name of Vamana is Urukram. Urukram means very powerful steps, very big steps. And so with the first step he took, he took the whole planetary system that he was in, and then with the second step he took the rest of the universe. And then the third step, he said, where do I put my third step? There's nowhere else left. And so Bali Maharaj says, my dear Lord, you can place it on my head. And so this is the nature of Bali. He's such a great devotee. And we see that in glorifying the different Mahajans, Bali Vayasiki Vayam, it says, Bali is because of his complete surrender. He surrendered his whole life to Vamanadeva or to Vishnu. He's glorified as one of the Mahajans. And a Mahajan Mahajan's a personality who understands perfectly the path of bhakti, understands how to surrender. And this is what we see here, is that Bali Maharaj has fully surrendered himself. He's saying the third step you can place on my head. So that's, who would do that? I mean, we joke around like that, as devotees sometimes. I talked Prabhu yesterday and said anything, he got to point his feet to put your feet on my head. We joke around, but would we really surrender ourselves like that fully? Because when you bow down at a person's feet, it means that I surrender to you. Whatever it is you want, I'm your servant. And this is, we see that in devotional service is our aspiration is to surrender ourselves at the lotus feet of the Supreme Person of God. But that surrender at lotus feet means that I am yours. Whatever you want to do with me, that's my position. And this is what we see Bali Maharaj. He's in actual fact, he's doing that. He's surrendering himself fully at the lotus feet of Vishnu. And as a result, we'll see comes in subsequent reading in this chapter, how he is awarded a place, because he tried to usurp the kingdom of heaven. Well, he did actually usurp the kingdom of heaven. And because the Devatas were thinking this was a better position. But what happens is Vamanadeva, he gives Bali Maharaj Sutala. Now, some people think it's the lower heaven, the lower heavenly planets, hellish planets, whatever. It's not a very nice position. But actually, Lord Vamanadeva explains that this is the most desirable position. And so much so, is such a desirable position that Vamanadeva agrees to become Bali's doorkeeper. Isn't this an amazing relationship between the Lord and his devotees? We see that, like when King Yudhisthira was doing the Rajasuya Yajna, all the different Pandavas took on different services. What service did Krishna take on?
To wash feet.
Huh?
To wash feet of the
Yeah, he was washing the feet of all the devotees, all the guests. He's God, he's supposed to be on top of the pile, it's like he's top of the heap, he's the top dog. But here he is, demonstrating by his position, by his actions, demonstrating by his acts what is the best position to be in. To place myself at the feet of others, to take this role of service. So he's telling us, and we see also Lord Chaitanya, he wanted to taste the experience of being a servant. He wanted to experience that, and therefore he came in this role of a devotee to show the exalted position of a devotee. So we see that Krishna, in the kind of mundane stereotype concept of what God is, and it is a mundane concept, like he's the boss, he's the top, everyone bows down. Everyone does bow down to Krishna, but still, the relationship a devotee can have with Krishna is so sweet, and he wants to experience that sweetness. Therefore, he himself comes in the role of the devotee, because actually the devotee is superior to God, because the devotee, when they fully surrender to God, controls God. And this is what we see here. Because of his surrender, Bali is controlling God. Purport. Punishment meted out by the Supreme Person of Godhead is accepted by the devotee as the greatest mercy. Tateinu kampam susamikshmano bunjana evatma kripam vipakam hridvagvapuvi vidata namaste jiveti yo mukti pade siddhaya bhak. One who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, words and body, and who always offers obeisances to you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for liberation. There's this interesting word here, this mukti padaya siddhaya bhak. Daya bhak means like inheritance. And it's just like, if the son stays faithful to the father, the father may be like a multimillionaire or billionaire or whatever. If the son stays faithful to the father and serves the father, etc., then he inherits the wealth of the father. So this doyabak means like the eligible heir to the kingdom or to the whatever. And so it's the same here. This jiveti yo mukti padaya is so. The devotee who faithfully serves Krishna throughout his life, this jiva, becomes eligible for liberation, mukti padaya, because it's his inheritance. Very interesting statement. Prabhupada quotes this verse quite a lot. A devotee knows that so-called punishment by the Supreme Person of Godhead is only his favor to correct his devotee and bring him to the right path. Therefore, the punishment awarded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be compared to even the greatest benefit awarded by one's material father, mother, brother, or friend. And this is the point that's being brought out here in this the line where it says, Yang na mata pita brata suridas chadashantihi. Because it's saying mother, father, brother, or friend. Na mata, na pita, na brata, na suridas. Whatever they give you can't even come close to what Krishna gives you. Even when Krishna punishes you, or seemingly punishes it, it's actually, it's so much better because, like in a material relationship, someone may give you, out of affection, that something that's driven by material affection, they may give you some kind of reward, or they may give you some kind of punishment. But it has a material source, it has material impetus. It's driven by some material connection. Therefore, the result can only be material. But when Krishna gives you so-called punishment, we know that ultimately that punishment is for our betterment. Ultimately, that punishment is to bring us to the position of devotional service, pure devotional service. So, Vaishnav Thakur says it's millions of times better than even the greatest, what would be the greatest material benediction you could think of? Money? Power? Temple president. Power, yeah? Wealth, power, beauty, fame. All these things are hankered for. For me, it'd be like a gold lifetime pass to my favorite airline, so I just didn't have to buy tickets, just keep getting on planes all the time. So these things are very much aspired after. People want them. But in comparison to the mercy of Krishna, these are insignificant. They're like straw on the street, they're nothing. And this is the mood of the devotee. Bali Maharaj had everything. He had wealth, he had power, he controlled the whole universe. All the daityas were submitting to his feet. Actually, all the living entities in the universe were submitting to him because he was controlling the whole universe. He had everything. He had so much wealth. He controlled Kavacha. He controlled that situation. And you see, like sometimes when these demons get into these positions, that they're very, very powerful. Like Hiranyakashipu, he was so powerful he controlled the seasons. Imagine that. Mm-hmm. Controlled the summer. It was always springtime under his rule, because he liked spring, so it was always springtime. The trees were always blossoming and giving fruit and stuff like that. The weather was always pleasant. So he had so much power. And we see that materialistic persons, that's what they aspire for. They aspire for power, they aspire for wealth, for beauty, for fame. This is their interest. Yet what Krishna gives us is so superior to that, you cannot even compare. And we see in the lives of the devotee, and like here with Bali Maharaj, this is why he's accepted as being one of the Maharajas. He gave up everything. And he had, it's like, but sometimes devotees, like, we come to ISKCON, and we're not really giving up that much. I mean, some devotees are, but generally speaking, we don't have much. Not in a particularly good economic situation, not in a particularly good, material situation at all. So we're not, in one sense, not giving up much, but we are giving up our sense of freedom, enjoyment in the material world to serve Krishna. So there is still some sacrifice, but if we look at someone like Bali Maharaj, he had a lot. He had dominion over the entire universe. And he gave that up and just submitted himself to Krishna. He said, put your foot here on my head. I'll become your servant. So he's glorified for that because he gave up everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. I've got some notes I just want to make this morning when I'm reading this. And this is mostly focusing on this verse Tattenu Kampam. Which, as I mentioned, Prabhupada does quote this verse quite a bit in different places. And it's interesting to see the way he uses this verse in different places. So one of the places Prabhupada quotes this, which is a fairly well-known verse from the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 12, text 13 and 14. I won't read the Sanskrit, but Prabhupada translates. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think of himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So wonderful qualities that Krishna is talking about here. And we see how Bali Maharaj, he's demonstrating these qualities. He's a friend to all living entities. You see, like even when he was dealing with the Daityas, the way he dealt with the Daityas wasn't, say, for instance, like Hiranyakashipu or Ravana or any of these people. He was always, very kind, and he was always very equipoised. He didn't really want to, attack the Devatas or anything like that, but because he's being pushed by the Daityas, he did it because that was his responsibility. But he's actually, kind and equipoised. Completely free from false ego. And we can see this is demonstrated by this. Is the Lord comes before him to beg charity. He says, of course, I'll do charity. And then when he says, where will I put my third step? Put it on my head. If you have false ego, what will you do? You'll fight back. Immediately you'll fight. Because you think this person is challenging, who I am. He's challenging my existence. Whereas Bali Maharaj, out of his desire to serve and to please Krishna, he just accepted whatever Krishna was offering him. Jai Shri Shri Radha Parisisvara Mandir. Is equal in both happiness and distress. So, if you can imagine, if you were to lose everything you had in life and just be left with the clothes on your back, how would you feel?
Cold.
Huh?
Cold.
Quoi?
Cold.
Cold.
Just say it.
Cold.
Chilly.
Yeah.
But you'd be disturbed, right?
Yes.
Nowhere to sleep, nothing to eat, just nothing at all. You just got the clothes on your back, out in the street. You'd be very disturbed, yeah? But we're seeing here, he's equal in both happiness and distress. Bali Maharaj lost everything. He had dominion over the entire universe, which is, it's not a small thing. Even we see, like in different countries, like sometimes someone may be the president or the prime minister, whatever, and they get kicked out, and they're very disturbed. They're very upset. Oh, like we've been cheated from the election, they rigged the election or whatever. They're so attached. But Bali Maharaj just let go of it like it was nothing. Like it was just straw on the street. And so this is the nature of a devotee. And he's tolerant, he's always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. He's mukti padeya sadoya bhak. Because he's engaged with determination in devotional service, Krishna blesses him. And this way, the devotee is very dear to Krishna. And there's a few interesting comments that Prabhupada makes in his purport. It's talking about how the devotee is not envious of anyone, nor does the devotee become his enemy's enemy. And who can we think of who was like that? Who was known as the Jata Shatru? Famously known as the Jata Shatru, Yudhisthira Maharaj. Even though people were his enemy, he never considered them his enemy. Even though people had so much enmity towards Yudhisthira and the Pandavas, he never treated them as his enemy. He was equal to all. These are the qualities of great devotees. That even someone may curse you or say unkind things to you or do unpleasant things to you, you just understand, oh, they're acting like this because of the material conditioning. They're acting like this due to their past karma. And you'll see the devotee is compassionate. Just like, many of you are going out on book distribution, and sometimes when you're out on book distribution, people act in ways that are not pleasant. They can be quite harsh in the way they act towards you. But we need to understand that they're acting like this because of their conditioning. This is not the intrinsic nature of the self. The self's nature is to serve God. The self is an eternal, loving servant of God. But because of their material conditioning, they're acting like this. And with this compassionate mentality, one can actually do good for other people. But if we develop this, discriminatory mentality where we're thinking, oh, they're demons, they're this, they're that. I mean, definitely some people are demons, there's no doubt of that. But most people are just simply innocent in some ways. They're just ignorant of the actual nature of themselves. Some people are just, out and out demons. But nonetheless, we should try to be equipoised whenever we meet and give each person the opportunity to engage in Krishna's service. So he's not envious, nor does he become his enemy's enemy. He thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. And this is what happens, is because in the past we performed activities and we have resultant reactions as a result of those activities, and therefore we suffer now. We should never blame anyone else. Prabhupada, when he spoke with a tennis player, what's his name? I forgot his name. I always forget his name. He's quite well known in the West. He was a famous tennis coach. He doesn't do it anymore. But yeah, Prabhupada had a 45-minute conversation with him one-on-one. There was no one else there, and just Prabhupada was speaking with him. And one of the points that he said that always stuck in his mind was Prabhupada said to him, don't hate the instrument of your karma. So if something's happening to you, this is proof that it's your karma, because it's happening to you, it's not happening to somebody else. So it means because of your past activities, you're experiencing this distress. So it's your fault. You brought it upon yourself. Don't blame someone else. They're just the instrument. It's just like, if you bang, a nail in with a hammer, the hammer's the instrument. You're actually the one who's doing it. So, if something happens to me, through the agency of someone else, we need to understand this person is just the instrument. I'm suffering like this due to my activities. And Prabhupada said, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds, so it is better to suffer than to protest. And we see, like Bali Maharaj, he wasn't protesting that he's losing everything. He just said, okay, this is due to my karma, this is due to the mercy of Krishna, I'll suffer this, no problem. And this is the mood of a devotee, because the devotee understands ultimately that these things are happening, especially when we can see it's coming from Krishna. We understand these things are happening, and not even from the perspective of karma, but thinking this is happening to me so that I can come closer to Krishna. Because Krishna is always acting to try to bring his devotees closer to him. We can see, in this pastime here, how Krishna is acting to bring Bali Maharaj closer to him, so that he's surrendering, because he became attached to all this material facility. So to some extent, and also his acts were causing distress to devotees. So because Bali himself was a devotee, then Krishna acted in a way to give up this attachment, to give up this situation where he was causing distress to devotees, and ultimately to bring him closer to the Lord. And we also see the same happens with the residents of Vrindavan. That Krishna, he descends in this beautiful childlike form and acts in a way that increases the residents of Vrindavan's love for Krishna and brings them closer to him. So Krishna's always acting like this. And Prabhupada goes on, after quoting this verse, Tat-Tena Kompam, he says, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I'm suffering now. Just like, we might be sort of doing something, somewhere in the temple, and we stub our toe. And we kick something, and oh my gosh, that hurts. But rather than sort of cursing, we should be thinking, actually, because of my past misdeeds, I should be suffering far much more than this. I'm lucky I still have a toe. The things I've done in my past life and in this life previously, very, very simple things. But Krishna, out of his kindness, his compassion upon his devotee, has reduced this to a token just to remind me that in the past I performed simple acts. This is the mentality we should take, not this mentality of blaming others or criticizing or anything like that, but take this mentality that because of what I've done in the past, I should be suffering so much more. But Krishna, he's so kind. He's so compassionate upon his devotees. He's reduced this just to a little token, just to remind me. And when the reactions, not even reactions, but when these things come from Krishna, the Acharyas explain that we don't even see this as being karma. It's just Krishna acting with the devotees to deepen the devotees' attachment for Krishna. Because if these things happen to us, if we have sufferings happen in the material world, and we take shelter of Krishna every time the suffering happens, this brings us closer to Krishna. But if we take shelter of our own prowess, our own intellect, each time, like something might happen and we think, okay, I'm going to get myself out of this, then we're taking shelter of ourselves. We're not taking shelter of Krishna. But every time distress comes, or difficulties come, if we take shelter of Krishna, then this brings us closer to Krishna. You see the difference? It's so much better to take shelter of Krishna. And whether we solve the situation, it doesn't matter. Just take shelter of Krishna. Just like I was talking to one of the devotees yesterday, and he was talking about how sometimes it's very difficult on Sankirtan. And it reminded me of the story of Prabhupada when he first started doing book distribution in Delhi. And he would go out all day long. And sometimes he wouldn't distribute even a single book. And then when he came back to where he was staying, he would just sit down, he would bathe, he would sit down, he would take prasadam, and he just become absorbed in Krishna, sit down and meditate on Krishna. And he just felt so peaceful. So the same is there for us. If we think that we're out there, we're preaching or whatever it is we're doing, by my endeavor, by my capacity, I'm able to do so much, then it becomes very tiresome, very bothersome for us. But if we take shelter of Krishna, then immediately all this burden is relieved from us. So it's a very, very important point. And there's another interesting point Prabhupada here says, Nirmama means the devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. So this is another understanding or perspective the devotee takes it, because most of the pains and pleasures we experience, or all the pains and pleasures we experience in this material world, are due to the body. You know, you stub your toe hurts, you get something nice, you feel some pleasure from it. But a devotee understands, I'm not this material body, therefore these things have nothing to do with me. So when I'm put into some difficulty, I don't identify with that difficulty. I just see it's the pains and pleasures due to the body. Yeah? It's got nothing to do with who I am. Yeah? So very, very important points that Prabhupada's making. And then, you know, this word, in this verse here, it says, Tate nukampam su samikshmano. So this word samikshmano, it indicates the devotee is patiently and earnestly, eagerly awaiting the mercy of Krishna. And this needs to be our attitude also, is that we're always looking for that mercy of Krishna, always looking for Krishna's compassion upon us, or in his loving hand. Even though we may be suffering some painful effect of our past sinful activities. We might be going through some difficulty, for instance, and we think, oh, you know, I'm experiencing difficulty right now, but Krishna's mercy will always be there. At some point, we'll see Krishna's mercy come. So this is the mood of a devotee, is to always be looking for that mercy, even though we're experiencing some difficulty, even though we may be getting some material pleasure or material pain. It doesn't really matter. It's the same kind. Ultimately, it's the same thing. But we're looking for Krishna's mercy. This is our goal. And we understand also that if we surrender fully to Krishna, whatever is happening to us is no longer the result of our past activity. Because a pure devotee, has no karma. Krishna takes all that karma, and whatever is seemingly coming during the past karma is actually Krishna developing this, the devotee's attachment for him, increasing the devotee's affection for him. It changes. When we surrender to Krishna fully, it's no longer karma. It's just Krishna's mercy upon us, and he's interacting in such a way as to deepen our affection for him. And he always does this with devotees. He always acts to deepen the devotee's love, because the loving relationship between Krishna and his devotee is very, very deep, very, very wonderful, and also very mysterious. It's very difficult. It's practically not possible to understand the love between Krishna and his devotee in the material state. It's only when we become purified we can actually understand the nature of that love. And it's also one of the points that's made is because in our mind we may still have some remnants of the previous sinful mentality. The Lord removes these last vestiges of the enjoying spirit, because we've all got this enjoying spirit, and there's still there may be some lingering kind of mentality there. Not that the devotee is looking for enjoyment in the material world, but because we have this just like the past effect, the past conditioning, it still lingers there, even in a subconscious or a subtle way. So by Krishna, like we see here with Bali, he's given up everything, but still there's this lingering enjoying spirit there to some extent. So Krishna then is seemingly punishing him. It's not punishment, because even we see Bali Maharaj in this verse, he's saying, I don't see it as punishment, I see it as your mercy. Mm-hmm. So that's what it is, it's Krishna's mercy, because it's removing any of these anarthas that may be stopping us from attaining pure love of God. And so this is how Krishna sometimes acts with his devotees. He gives what seems to be punishment, just to remove these final anarthas, so we can completely give ourselves to the service of Krishna. And there's a lot more that can be said about this, but it's a really interesting discussion. It's a wonderful example for us also, that we can see how we need to develop in devotional service, how we need to surrender ourselves fully to Krishna and give up all concept of being the controller, being the enjoyer in this material world, and just try to act for Krishna's pleasure. Any questions at all? Comments? ready to do it, surrender to Krishna. Yes, yes.
I was wondering if the surrender of Bali Maharaj is in some way also can be also connected, or there's a similar surrender in the surrender of Queen Kunti that we read in the first canto, where she's praying for more and more calamities to happen.
Yeah.
And then the question would be, what is the measuring agent for our personal spiritual life? How can we measure our process of surrender?
Yeah.
Where we are in this?
Queen Kunti's situation is quite different in a sense. Because if you look at that prayer, Vipadash Tantra Shastra Tattva Tattva, she's saying that let the calamities come again and again. So it's not like she's a masochist or something, that she's enjoying pain. But what happens is when she's experiencing these difficulties, what does she do? She thinks of Krishna. She absorbs herself in Krishna. So she's taking this disposition. It's like, as soon as there's some difficulty, Krishna, please save us. Krishna, please help us. Krishna, allow me to remember you. And we see, like we don't do that. We tend to, because of our lack of advancement in devotional, or at least I can talk for me. From my lack of advancement in devotional service, I tend to try to rectify the situation through my own endeavor, through my own prowess or whatever. But we see in the lives of great devotees, they don't do that. Whenever calamity comes, they take shelter of Krishna. Like Prahlad Maharaj, his father was doing so many atrocities to him. Yet in each situation, what did he do? He just took shelter of Krishna more and more. And so it's probably not the wisest thing for us to pray for calamities, because would we take shelter of Krishna? Probably not. And she said, when I think of you, Bhavado Darshana, Apurna Bhavadarshana, when I no longer fear repeated birth and death. So, she's understanding the goal. Clearly, and it's not just, for her, it's not just intellectual, because she's willing to take on suffering, because that suffering brings her closer to the goal. And this is what's being demonstrated here by Bali Maharaj, is this suffering is bringing him closer to the goal. Therefore, this is great mercy upon me, my Lord, thank you. But do we say thank you when something unpleasant happens to us? Oh, why is this happening to me? These demons, they're making my life so miserable. We don't say thank you. But you see, Bali Maharaj is saying, thank you, my Lord, for your great mercy upon me. And this is the mentality of devotee. They see that these things are happening to me because of what I've done in the past. Therefore, that you're allowing me to experience this difficulty right now is your great mercy upon me. Thank you so much. This is, we need to develop this disposition of gratitude, where we're thanking the Lord for all these things that happen, because it's bringing me closer to you. Why? Because when these things happen, I think of you. This is her mentality. It's very important. How we can understand our advancement in devotional service, I think, just by how we respond to calamities. Do we try? It's one metric. There's many different ways. So you can look at also how attached are you to material enjoyment. How many material desires do you have? That's also another metric. But how do you respond when calamity comes? Do you thank Krishna? Are you happy that you're coming closer to Krishna? Because this calamity is bringing you closer to Krishna, because whenever the calamity happens, I'm able to remember you? Probably not. But when we start to see ourselves in that light, it's only by Krishna's mercy that I have anything that's material world. It's only by Krishna's mercy that I'm able to function. And these things that are happening to me, this is only by Krishna's mercy. Because sukhe dukhi same kritva, whether it's happiness or distress, we should be equipoised. But we're not. We're not. Well, jaya, joy, I can't remember the last one, but in victory or defeat. Like Bali Maharaj, he's been completely defeated. by this little dwarf Brahmana. And is he lamenting? Is he, oh, I'm going to fight, I'm going to get my kingdom back? No, not even slightly like that. He's just thinking, this is your mercy upon me, Lord. Thank you so much for bestowing your mercy upon me. Because he's understanding what is the real victory. This is it. The real victory means we conquer the mind and senses, we conquer the material nature, and we surrender ourselves. And this is real conquering, is to surrender ourselves at the lotus feet of Krishna fully. And therefore he is victorious. That person who surrenders becomes victorious. You look in the material sense, you're fighting a battle, like here we are in France, and there's one famous person here who had to surrender, and for him, that was a great disaster. He lost everything because he had to surrender. The little guy was very proud, and he's like, fighting like anything and conquering so much of Europe. And that to him was the victory. He's conquering all these countries. But then in the end, he had to surrender. And ultimately, he had to surrender to death. And so for the materialist, that's a defeat. But for a Vaishnav, for a devotee, they surrender to God, that's the greatest victory. Because ultimately, if you surrender fully to God, we see, you look at the so many examples of devotees, like the residents of Vrindavan, and Arjuna, they actually control God. Arjuna's on the battlefield, and he's saying, take my chariot here, take my chariot there, take it here, take it there. And Krishna's just doing it so expertly. He becomes the servant of his devotee. So when we surrender to Krishna fully, this is the ultimate victory.
Could we say that also in a way that how much Krishna is reciprocating with us, in a sense, shows how much we are surrendered to him?
No, because he might not reciprocate. You can't, use that as a metric to understand, because sometimes he reciprocates with people who seemingly aren't even devotees in amazing ways, just to bring them closer to him. And sometimes with his like Narad Muni, okay? When Narad Muni was a young boy, he was serving the Mahabhagavats. And they instructed him in the path of yoga, in bhakti. And so he practiced bhakti, and he had a vision of Krishna. The Lord appeared to him. And then the Lord left, and he said, don't try looking for me because you won't be able to find me. And he was trying and trying and trying and trying and trying for the rest of his life to see Krishna, and he didn't. Does that mean that he's not a greatly advanced devotee? Does that mean he's not surrendered? No. Krishna's independent. He can choose to bestow mercy upon you, he can choose not to bestow mercy upon you. This is his mercy. We can't, the problem is because we have material mentality, that in the material world, if I put this sort of endeavor, I should get this kind of response or this kind of result. It doesn't work like that when we're dealing with Krishna. But it's not an indication. Just because Krishna doesn't reveal to himself to you is not an indication that you're not making advancement. It's not an indication that you're not that you're an advanced devotee. It's got nothing to do with it, because that's material. That's a material calculation. 1 + 1 = 2. 1 - 1 is 0. That's material maths. Spiritual maths, you just can't figure it out. Krishna sometimes will bestow great mercy upon you. And you'll have his darshan, you'll have some direct reciprocation with him, other times not. Either way, it's Krishna's mercy. Because when he doesn't reciprocate with us, we become more eager, or we should become more eager for that reciprocation. So this is his mercy, because it's increasing our enthusiasm to serve him. Don't make the mistake of trying to gauge Krishna materially, because you can't. He's beyond all material estimation. It's inconceivable. With our tiny little brain, we cannot understand how Krishna works. And this is, we were talking about this yesterday in Radha. There's a number of statements in the Bhagavatam from Kunti, from Bhishma, and what's chapter 74, what was that? Who's speaking? Yudhisthira Maharaj was speaking to Krishna how you cannot understand the way Krishna acts. It's not possible. Even Kunti states, they're saying, you're like an actor on the stage. I cannot conceive of how you're acting. And she's a great devotee of Krishna. She's experiencing prema. Look at the mute button is. And you see also with Bhishma, another great devotee of Krishna experiencing prema. And he says, I cannot understand. I cannot understand your pastimes. I cannot understand your activity. Yudhisthira is saying the same thing. I cannot understand how you act, my Lord. These are great devotees who are experiencing a direct relationship with Krishna. Yet they still say, I cannot understand. So what's the likelihood that you and I can understand if they can't understand? We just accept Krishna's mercy when it comes, in whatever form it comes, and be grateful. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samavekta Bhakti Yoga ki, Jai Nitai Go Premanandi. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.